Mara lived in a quiet hill country village and carried bitterness like a second shadow. She felt life had conspired against her. Loss, disappointment, and loneliness lay behind her like broken pottery. Sometimes she whispered Naomi's own words from the book of Ruth. "Call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me." She believed fate had fixed its cold hand upon her, and she walked each day convinced her story had already been written in sorrow. She worked for old Eliab, a master weaver whose tapestries drew travelers from distant lands. His workshop smelled of cedar and dust, and the loom clicked like a steady heartbeat. Eliab often said things that unsettled her, such as, "Child, God is not finished with your thread." But she couldn't believe him, not yet. One evening, Mara noticed a cluster of tangled, ugly knots beneath one of Eliab's unfinished tapestries. Curious and slightly judgmental, she lifted the edge to study the chaos. It looked senseless, messy, and ruined. The reflection stung. "This looks exactly like my life." Eliab approached quietly, flipped the tapestry to the other side, and revealed a stunning sunrise woven in gold and crimson. The very knots she mocked were what gave the picture depth and brilliance. "On this side," Eliab said, touching the tangled underside, "you see confusion, but the weaver sees the pattern." This is what Paul meant when he said, "Now we see dimly, as through a glass." What looks broken may be the very thread that shapes beauty. Mara said nothing, but her heart trembled. In the months that followed, Mara began noticing small mercies in her days. Doors opening, kindness appearing in unexpected places, skills she never knew she had sharpening under Eliab's patient guidance. Eliab once told her, "Joseph was thrown into a pit before he ever entered a palace. Pain can be preparation." Mara was unsure, but she felt something changing. Only later would she understand how every sorrow she thought had ruined her had instead taught her resilience, alertness, and strength. Threads she didn't realize God was weaving into her character. One stormy night, a lightning strike set the weaving shop ablaze. Flames roared like wild beasts. Eliab, old and frail, was trapped under a fallen beam. Without hesitation, Mara rushed inside. She pulled him free with a strength she did not know she possessed, choking on smoke but refusing to yield. When the villagers praised her courage, Mara shook her head in wonder. "I don't know where that strength came from." Eliab smiled weakly. "It was woven long before tonight. And like the psalmist said, we went through fire and through water, yet you brought us out into a place of abundance." The fire had not destroyed her story, it revealed it. When Eliab passed away, he left the workshop to Mara. She stood before her loom, running her fingers across the threads that had once terrified her. She remembered Joseph's words to his brothers, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." The verse echoed through her heart as she realized how every painful thread in her past, loss, confusion, bitterness, had formed the foundation of the woman she had become. Mara whispered a quiet prayer. "Lord, weave as you will. I will trust the pattern." And in time, she became known not only for her tapestries, but for her compassion. People said her stories carried healing, her weavings carried hope, and her life carried testimony. For Mara had learned the truth of Romans 8 verse 28, that the weaver wastes no thread, and even the knots hold purpose, in the hands of the master.